you know? So
Yeah.
there's a high switching cost when something becomes heavily leveraged, you know? It's just like anything else too,
And if
you
you
know?
spend a lot on it too, I would have to think you go back to the boss and go back to the CFO and say, well, I didn't pick the right solution, but this one over here, if we shed out some more money, this is
Yeah.
only 18 months past what we already bought.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that you lose credibility with management and you might be not in a good
It's not too
situation.
bad. I mean, like it's more the migration effort is what they look at, and then I mean, because like in IT, there's this accepted idea that like the day you go live is something that's like the day it's deprecated. It's like pretty much at that point you're then working on the complete rebuild and refactor of the new thing. That's just kind of how
David, let me
software is.
ask you this, since you've done it,
But
is it painful with Palantir? Is it painful to get platforms switched over? Or what I've been reading on and seeing videos on is you don't have to switch to your renewals up or whatever. Basically, we can connect Foundry to all these other things you've already invested in.
yeah, yeah.
And then as those renewals come up, you dispose of that and we'll bring more into the fold on the actual OS itself.
Yeah, I think there's definitely like a lift and shift kind of way you could approach it. And they have first party integrations with like Snowflake and Databricks and SageMaker, like a lot of the products companies use. In fact, they have the deepest integrations out of any company I've seen, the broadest range of data source integrations across SaaS, along with the best first party integrations for the big data platforms like Databricks and Snowflake and SageMaker. So they definitely did their homework in figuring out like where are customers at today and what tools are they using, and they came up with the tech that makes that easy so you could like lift and shift, right? But it doesn't help customers if you're speaking in a flowery language that sounds more like philosophy than like like a practical application of that. And so but then they recently shifted about 6 months ago to explain like no, 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 like we actually have first party integrations into Databricks and here's how you do it, and they start publishing articles about like
I was say, do you ever see them publishing videos to say, look,
they
you
are, yeah,
got this, you bought this,
yeah.
let me show you how we enhance it.
But they only do, what sucks is they only do like a 30-second segment in a broader 20-minute video, whereas like it would be cool to see some deep dives on like actually using Databricks inside Foundry,
Yeah,
and like Snowflake, for example, too, because then it would
because it
it
gives
would
the aha moment, right?
yeah,
Like,
exactly, because there's some engineer out there somewhere who's gonna go, oh shit, that solves problems A, B, C, D, and E that I have.
yeah, don't tell me you can do it, show it.
Yeah, show it.
What
Exactly.
customers want to see. Show me this, and then also
Show me
now,
the integration,
yeah,
and then yeah, the engineers will connect the dots on their own. But the cool thing is once you do that, like once you hook an engineer like that, they're fucking in, dude. They'll go down the rabbit hole.
especially if they're high in the totem pole, they're going to fight to get that
Yeah.
platform adopted.
Yeah.
Um,
So, well, that's where I'm at. Yeah, so like that's yeah, but like there's still substantial resistance because again, I think it's just they're really ahead of the game and people are starting to figure out that they need these tools, but they're not quite there yet. They're almost
but I do have to, because I could talk to you for hours, but and we're going to cut this up so people can digest it at one segment at a time. But I have to have a better understanding of edge compute and how this relates to Palantir. And what I'm trying to understand and wrap my head around is you have all of these customers using hyperscalers. So that's
yep,
AWS, GCP,
yep,
and
yep,
Azure for our viewers. So these public cloud companies that own most of the market. You have Oracle, Alibaba, and Snowflake, and others, smaller percentage of the market share. If I'm someone who's getting a massive amount of my cost in my AWS bill and it keeps getting
yep,
bigger and
yep.
bigger and bigger,
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
is
I think
there,
everyone is like that in that same boat, by
and
the
then
way.
they got their hooks in you.
Yeah.
Is there anything that Palantir can do to reduce that cost by bringing some of that to the edge? Is
I
it
think
possible?
it's not just the edge. It's like so a huge amount of the way in which cloud providers lock you in is all the code you write to tell the cloud provider how to provision your app and deploy it out there. The edge networks are just one part of that. There's also just the standard data centers, region locations where that gets deployed, but it's all described in this proprietary language they have. HashiCorp helps with that with Terraform, and like that shit. But it's not, but it's still relatively, you're still writing a lot of like proprietary code, in order to deploy it out. So a lot of the reason that, so what is the operating margin at like AWS? I think it was like 60% or something,
Mhm.
just obscene total,
Yeah.
right? Like, what do you think's driving that? Well, it's that they know they can do what you described, which is continually
Yeah.
ratchet the price,
Yeah.
as your usage starts to increase. And
Yeah.
that's how you get to someone like Lyft, who then has to like negotiate a $300 million deal to avoid that continued ratchet problem. And that sort of underscores the fact that what locked them in wasn't where they deployed, whether it was the edge or their data centers. What locked them in was all the infrastructure as code they had to write in the AWS specific way of doing things that makes it impossible to take this generic compute that should just be generic and now move it out somewhere else. And they probably also locked themselves into AWS proprietary services for things like messaging and databases and stuff like that.
So once you've done that and you've written your code in that proprietary manner, are you
Yeah,
SOL?
pretty much. Yeah. You got total rewrite on your hands.
So for our folks watching, um, that's refactoring or rebuilding all of your applications.
Yep.
That for some of these, like Lyft and other companies that have spent years building, um, that's probably not going to be able to be upsold to the
Totally.
CEO of
And
it.
to give you an idea of the amount of code, like for something as simple as a generic CRUD API, which is like just an API that just moves data around, the ones that I'm writing that are really basic, it's like 10 times the amount of infrastructure code as the API code, right? So like there's like literally 10 times as many lines of infrastructure code for AWS as, and now I wasn't using Terraform for this, but like I was using the AWS CDK, but like still I had 10x the number of lines of code to deploy the fucking thing as I did to write the thing. So
So at
like,
that point, is it fair to say that when AWS gets you and you've been there that long with them, they have your hooks, you're not moving off of that. You may multi-cloud it and take some into different clouds and balance it out for disaster recovery and for performance and
I mean,
business
you want
continuity.
to, but it's really hard to do that.
But isn't
Even
that where
back in the
Snowflake comes in?
no, no, no. It's just like back in the day, like GCP, like back in 2017, they were going around and like trying to recruit people onto their platform. They're offering free compute. All you had, and they would even give you free consulting to migrate over your apps. And like virtually all of those initiatives failed. Like at the company I was at, it failed. And the reason is, dude, the amount of work involved is just insane. Even to take an existing workload and just run it on another cloud provider is super.
Wow. So it,
Yeah.
it is hard, because people say that in the industry, and I've always wondered how hard really is it?
Oh, it's fucking hard. Yeah. So they know they got you, but like the difference with Foundry, like, is that if you build your apps on Foundry, you now have a replacement for AWS. Like I literally will never write another piece of code that interacts with AWS or interacts with GCP. Like everything's going to be built in the Foundry ecosystem. But Foundry natively supports multi-cloud and edge deployment.
Right.
So it's like, well, that's pretty cool because if all my apps are running on top of Foundry and they're all built in Foundry, then I can basically just take the compute layer down to the lowest level, right? Which is like EC2
Yep.
and S3
Yep.
and IAM, like that's it. It's really, I'm only paying for like really 2 or 3 services. And then because they have Apollo and they can deploy that across GCPs too, well, then they become commodities. Then it's just like, you won't fucking reduce my pricing? Fuck you. I'll turn off your workload and like go triple it on GCP. Because GCP is willing to give me free compute for 6 months and then drop the rate by 20%. So like,
So it may not be that I build or refactor everything in Foundry, but I will start building new stuff in Foundry
yeah,
that probably, to what our earlier conversation,
yeah.
could communicate to the AWS native legacy stuff that I have in there. And I could make do with that and figure out ways I can.
Foundry will be the connective tissue because like Foundry just takes it where, fuck that, I won't go through all these APIs and everything else up here. I'll just connect directly to the data source. So it's like it can just backdoor all this. That's how they work with ERP too. Is they just backdoor and they go straight
Yes.
to the
Yeah.
data.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited, man.
It's like Sean was saying, it's like what AWS was for developers the last 10 years, Foundry will be for the next 10 years. And I really believe that because it does at that point enable what we want to see, which is sky compute, which is like the cloud providers are just this homogenous layer of compute. We don't really care about them anymore. but you need a platform that you can then build apps on that is distributable across all of them, you know? And that's what Foundry really is.
So how much of this can Snowflake do?
Well, none of it right now. I mean, they claim to have this new native apps capability in their press release today that came out, but it's in a private beta. And it's also like not generic apps. It's like building data pipelines and stuff like that, you know. Whereas like Foundry, you can build a generic app to do anything. It's like when I was saying before, like a Turing complete, like there's Turing complete programming language, means they solve all categories of problems. They do everything, you know. Foundry has a application framework for building apps, all apps that can solve all categories of apps.
Oh,
Right?
wow, yeah,
Like I said, they built Skywise on it. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
they're building HyperAuto on it, right? So like,
They're building platforms and products out of this that you're not
yeah,
going to do that in Snowflake.
no, this is a general purpose application platform,
Yeah.
you know, and in addition to all the other things it
You're
does.
basically creating alpha and new company value
Yeah.
on the Foundry platform, whereas Snowflake is just it's just a housing and lower cost reduction.
It's a brick in the wall, you know.
Yeah,
Snowflake's a brick in the overall
and
wall.
Foundry is the wall. It's a new wall.
Yeah, exactly. And so like,
Oh man, I'm so excited. You just got.
yeah, yeah,
I can talk to you for hours about this stuff. Like it's just because I live and breathe the SaaS world and talk to customers and deal with the challenges and
yeah.
everything you're saying makes complete sense. And when people say, well, you weren't profitable and you've been around for 17 years. We were working on creating something that's never been done before and supporting the military and doing something that
the compute required to do something like wasn't even like publicly available till 2017, you know. So
like what they were doing was so and forward thinking and what they
yeah,
were building.
yeah,
Taking a line out of cart,
yeah,
building programs or building software for tomorrow that you don't know you need today.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, I'm just geeked more than ever, and I'm
Yeah.
so over indexed in Palantir stock. I just want to get more. Like the more and more aha moments, you know.
Once again, not financial advice. I have a relationship.
No. I just the technology is so good.
Yeah.
I need to get some more people who work there who I don't know if they could jump on the podcast just to say what they're about. That you know, I mean, I think that more people need to hear from
I
them.
don't know how open they have a strict social media policy, I think.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But they're doing good things, and so and you look at their IR stuff. Like there's a new announcement every. I mean, I don't think we've ever seen like maybe 2 weeks ago with nothing new announced.
They're
You know,
cranking. Like you can see the contrast. In what's cool is like I can see the contrast from this time last year, you know, and
yes,
like and what's interesting is like both from like a PR perspective, they're way more active, you
yep,
know, on
very
LinkedIn,
much so.
everything they're doing. So good job, PR team. And the
Yes,
marketing's gotten better, so good job, marketing team. Like it just seems like they're firing on all
yeah,
cylinders right now, whereas before it was like
disjointed.
yeah, disjointed, not working together. Now it feels like everyone's working together and they're delivering on equal value in each team.
Mhm.
So like yeah, dude, like I see this massive improvement. To me it's like the metrics that I'm looking at are I'm sort of looking at the customer count, and like I think we're
Mhm.
seeing good movement. I think last year we saw great movement, and that's the metric I look at to see like how well are they executing, you know, how well and their customers absorbing what they're saying, and is the technology working. And everything I look at in my own experience with it, I'm like, yeah, there's no way this company doesn't become successful. And
Yeah, I look at the customer count, like you said, for sure. Net revenue expansion. So are people buying more and building out more?
yep,
And then also the contribution margin, meaning
yep,
are you getting more from those current customers year after year after year, and they're
yep,
contributing more as they get through the build or the acquire scale expand phase expands where we see that big jump.
yep,
So you could have partnerships announced or contracts here,
yep,
but they may not recognize revenue until they've completed that actual contract. And then also you just said that they're now usage-based pricing. Like I know
yeah,
I put a video out there. I didn't know that that was the standard. I thought it was like, oh, if you want usage pricing, here you go. You can try
yeah,
this. But now they're meeting customers where they're at, which is
yep.
also encouraging.
Yeah, no, I mean, like the introduction of usage-based pricing, I think was like big because that's what a lot of people expect, especially when you're just starting with a product, you know. So I think they're making all the right moves, and I think by 2023, people will be really happy about the progress in the developer community and where they're going with the platform. I know that what I want to see, what the thing I've been telling them is like I want as many engineers as possible to build a business on this thing,
Mhm.
to like launch a startup, build value on it, because like the true potential of this platform is 100 times what Palantir could ever reach with it on its own. Once you give it to the developers, it's like who knows what they'll create with that shit, like
So do you
it's
think that then, so what you're advocating is why not open up Foundry for Builders for more startups to
yeah,
use?
like why not make it like for everyone, like Amazon is, and like all you need to do is go create an account and put in a credit card and you're good to go, man. Like remove the barriers to entry, but like it's baby steps. I think it's we gotta there has to be a way in which to explain it to people so it just doesn't fly by them.
Well, hopefully they watch this video. I mean, everything you've explained to me resonates, and it just more confidence and conviction. And this is the kind of deep dive that you want to do if you're going to be a shareholder of a company. Is you want to understand from the ground up. Like
Yeah,
I can go to
definitely.
bed. I can go to bed every night sleeping like I invested in something that I believe in. I believe in full conviction, and I have no qualms. I have no, and if I lose everything and I'm wrong, it's a great, I feel I've done everything I can on research, and I can't see where they don't succeed 10 years from now. Will
Yeah,
it be bumpy?
either way.
Sure, it's going to be bumpy. Right now, we are in bumpy. But at the same time, what could be bumpy now when others are in fear could be better when everyone's cheering on Palantir. And all of a sudden, we see the institutional uh buyers come in and all of a sudden bring big money in, right? It's still predominantly a retail stock.
Yeah, totally.
So
Sorry, I had to shut my camera off for a second. My eyes are. I got
oh,
so
no worries.
sunburned
I know how
yesterday.
that gets. No worries. Looking at a
I got like,
computer screen, I actually have 4 screens and the laptop.
I
So
was surfing yesterday for a while too, and there's this like
oh,
massive.
you're back up and on the boards. Awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm good now. But like let me turn my fan on. The sun was like super glaring, and like I got sunburn in my eyes, and then I have to stare at a monitor all day.
Yeah,
It's just,
not good. Not good.
what's that?
Um, well, this definitely just gives me more conviction. Hopefully, it gives our listeners more conviction in Palantir and what they're creating. We appreciate everything that you're doing uh, on the developer side and
Yeah,
being an
absolutely, man.
advocate. Palantir, if you're listening, I'd be an advocate for you for the marketing side.
Absolutely,
You
man.
know,
No, I think they really appreciate the YouTube community quite a
yeah,
bit. I mean,
man.
that's
I
how they
mean,
found me.
yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah,
it's good technology that makes our world better, and I want to invest in things that make the world a better place, and I believe they're doing that. And
absolutely, dude. They're solving real problems. I wouldn't be investing all my personal time doing this for free if I didn't really believe in it.
yeah, I mean, it's same here. Like, I'm on projection for this entire year of the podcast, $400. So YouTube, just so you guys know, YouTube doesn't pay a lot unless you got Tom Nash
That
view.
channel's not even monetized. So
Right, right,
I get
right.
nothing out of this.
Like Tom Nash, my boy, he has like 300,000 viewers. That's when it becomes lucrative, people, but it
Yeah,
takes a lot of work. And my buddy Chris and Ahmet are hustling to get there.
yep.
But you and me have full-time jobs and families, so
Yeah.
it's kind
And
of hard to
like,
do both.
I took tremendous risk to
You
do
know,
this. I could be
we're
accused of
here
like,
up at 10:30 at night, probably. Oh well, you're in California time, it's
yeah.
still 8:30 your time. This is when we have time to do it, and so
No, I
that's
took a tremendous risk like doing all this, like
yeah,
professionally, personally.
yeah,
Um, if anyone thinks I get any money out of this, they're out of their mind. I get no money out of this. Like I'm doing it because I actually believe in this technology. It's like, yeah, it's like being given early access to AWS before anyone else had access to it,
yep,
and you could figure out how you were going to build the future of software. Like that's incredible. If you actually believe that as a developer, that's motivating.
that
That's
is.
that's why I'm doing it. Is like I really do believe like this is how I want to build software in the future, and People are going to get there. I mean, when you see companies like Snowflake trying to emulate what they're doing, right? Then you start to go, oh, they're definitely on this. Microsoft too, right? With
Oh
their
yeah, data mesh.
intelligent data platform. So like you're seeing companies start to try and talk and even use their vocabulary, which is kind of interesting. So like they may be so far ahead, we think, they aren't meeting people where they are, but at the same time, the industry is quickly evolving to like adopt this kind of idea,
Yeah,
So-
no, very, very much so. So, well, we'll conclude there, guys. Thank you for watching this. We are going to cut this up into segments just so that way, maybe have one big video too as well. But remember, it's never too late to dominate your investments. And this is not financial advice, but hopefully entertaining and educational. Learn more about Palantir. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Anytime, Tom. Appreciate it, man.
All right.